Manchester United have officially won 3 Premier League matches in a row, and say it quietly, this team might be evolving. Now, I think this is the main reason why I was so impressed with United's win against Brighton. Yes, United have won a few games recently, but this time was the first time it felt like we've won a game playing a sustainable style of football, playing a style of football which we can actually build upon, rather than just using the long ball approach and playing off second balls. However, we are going to start with the long ball because it is still a big part of Manchester United's game. But what's important is United in this game, when we did go long, we didn't just boot it straight up from the goalkeeper. We sort of set up as though we were going to play short initially. So two of the centre-backs split either side of the goalkeeper, and then Casemiro drops in and De Ligt comes a little bit further forward. And this is really important. This is something that we've been very critical of pretty much ever since Ruben Amorim came into the club. Even before he came into the club, this was something that we were worried about. Making Manchester United too predictable in the first phase, making it difficult for United to play out in these moments. And I would say for now that is still the case. But what we are starting to see is at least the benefit of moving De Ligt here. Previously, it hasn't made a lot of sense at all. It is starting to make a bit more sense, because when De Ligt moves up into this position here alongside Casemiro, like we can see in this shot here, Bruno Fernandes isn't actually at all involved in this moment, which is really important, because that means Bruno Fernandes can play a little bit higher. So let's say United sort of set up in this short structure initially. We play out to the back, we go to the left, perhaps we go back to the goalkeeper, and then we send the ball long. The good thing is we've got that extra player there in Bruno Fernandes situated really high up the pitch to try and win the second ball. Of course, also Cunha and Bumo and Bruno Fernandes as well. You can see in the average positions from the other day, Bruno and also Casemiro were really high, close to Šeško, so that United could get on these second ball moments. And I would say this is sort of the first time over the past few weeks we're starting to see the reason why we want to move a centre-back into midfield, because it allows us to bump one of our midfielders further forward. That allows us to get on the second ball, it allows our midfielders to get on the ball facing play, and from there United can be quite dangerous. Okay, so we've got the boring long ball football out of the way. Recently, there has been way too much content on all platforms about long balls, set pieces, long throws, things like that. So now we're going to look at something a little bit more interesting, and a true area where we saw sort of evolution from United in this game, and that's positional freedom and positional rotations within the structure. Since Ruben Amorim has been at the football club, we've been a little bit critical for the fact that the team has been static, almost fixed into its position. So the left-sided forward is going to stay in this zone here, the striker's going to stay up here, the right forward, the central midfielders all sort of stay in their rough zone. The one sort of rotation that we have seen in the past 12 months has been out wide, where occasionally we see a wing-back, someone like Diogo Dalot or Dorgu, coming inside the pitch so that the inside forward can move a little bit wider. This was something that we saw quite a lot last season, with Alejandro Garnacho moving into this wider position, and it allows the wing-back to underlap. But what we saw against Brighton was United actually taking this one step further and adding to the rotations, because rather than it just being these two involved, we can now highlight Casemiro, because he was also getting involved in these rotations in this football match. Because what we would see sometimes is still Cunha pulling out wide and still Dalot moving more central, but not necessarily into a high left-hand position. Diogo Dalot was on occasion moving into midfield and almost forming a double pivot alongside Bruno Fernandes. And the reason why United were doing this was to sort of free up Casemiro. We know that once he gets forward and once he gets towards the penalty area in the final third, he's actually quite a weirdly effective player. Some of his best football actually comes in these zones over here. And this sort of rotation allowed him to do that. We can see here, Dalot's much deeper, and just a few seconds later, Casemiro attacks the left half space, not once, but actually twice within the space of just a few seconds, all whilst Cunha was wider on the left-hand side. And this only happens because Dalot has rotated deeper inside the pitch. Now, there is an argument that Casemiro in the left half space with Cunha wide on the left isn't necessarily the most effective way of playing football. But what's more important here is that the team is starting to rotate, because this is something that can be so dangerous, particularly if we are talking about planning for the long term, building for the future. When we have different players, perhaps, when we have someone different to Casemiro in this role, or someone more effective than Dalot wide on the left-hand side. These rotations are really important because, yes, you're still operating the same parts of the pitch, you know, the left half space, the left wing-back position, and the central midfield position. But when you move players into different zones, into different orders, it really disrupts the opposition. They're not so sure who they're meant to be following. Are they meant to follow Dalot inside, especially when he goes deep? Are they meant to follow Cunha out wide? These are questions that you begin to ask of the opposition, and this was something that United couldn't do before. Now, another area where I felt we saw evolution and improvement from United this game was with the usage of the centre-backs. Now, typically we talk about Manchester United using 3 centre-backs and the fact that this can be quite defensive, particularly when we play full-backs out wing-back as well. But on the flip side of things, this can also be a positive for us. And I think because of the players we've got, it can actually help us in an attacking sense. And that's what we saw at times in this game. Now, not all the time, because Manchester United are a team that move the ball so fast at times. That means the centre-backs can't always actually get up there and provide support. But when United did play a little bit slower in this game, Luke Shaw and Lenny Yoro were really good at acting almost like a fullback for United in a back four, moving further forward out wide, giving United an extra player to build possession with and attack with, but also giving United a way of sustaining pressure and winning the ball back. So let's say United are attacking down the right-hand side, we might have seen Mbeumo go on one of his dribbles, and United end up high down the right side of the pitch. What we would see at times was Lenny Yoro actually joining the attack in this position, but not like flying forward, just sitting behind them on the right hand side. So Manchester United almost now have 2 centre-backs at the back, and Lenny Yoro has sort of become a bit of a right-back. Now this is useful because it gives United an extra player. We could also swing it round to the other side as well. Luke Shaw could come forward and help down this side of the pitch. Like here, Luke Shaw is literally playing as a left-back for United on the left-hand side. And it's great for having an extra player trying to break down the opposition. But it's also really useful for sustaining pressure, counter-pressing and winning the ball back. So let's say, let's move back to the right-hand side now. So Shaw is a little bit deeper next to De Ligt. Lenny Yoro has moved a little bit further forward. But let's say United lose the ball in this position here. Because Yoro is so high, Manchester United have a lot of players in close proximity to try and win the ball back as quickly as possible. Now, United are far from perfect in this position. I did mention that in my match video the other day. But again, if we're talking about building on something, trying to build something for the future, this is something that we could work on. Because Lenny Yoro being that extra man allowed United to sustain pressure. The other thing that this does is it stops the opposition being able to carry the ball out from the back. What we've seen a lot over the past few seasons is opposition central midfielders picking the ball up and driving at the Manchester United backline, particularly under Ten Hag when we used a shape like this, but also under Ruben Amorim as well, we have seen this shape. There's so much room either side of our central midfielder, and for years the opposition midfield have been able to carry the ball into this space. But when suddenly you sort of flip almost into more of a back four and Lenny Yoro comes a little bit higher, you get that extra player that can immediately apply pressure to stop the opposition countering. So I don't necessarily feel that the execution of this in this match was perfect, but again, if we're talking about finally having something to build on, this is exactly that. This is something that could make United in the long run better at sustaining pressure and keeping the ball and also forcing the opposition deeper, which is certainly something that we want to do. Now, the other clear evolution in the Manchester United team over the course of the season so far is the front three this season compared to last season. Last season, we realistically had Ahmad in the right 10, Garnacho in the left 10, and Rasmus Højlund up front. All good players, all with a lot of potential. What we've got now, though, is more ready-made profiles. Not necessarily up front with Benjamin Sesko just yet. Of course, he's a little bit younger, so he's going to take a bit more time to get going. But he's still doing very well, and he is already a better player than Højlund, and that's where United have evolved and upgraded. We've now got a striker who can compete physically, he can deal with the long ball, he can bring a ball down on his chest, he can jump and compete with centre-backs, but also he can do the linking work. We saw that for his assist the other day. The bounce touch is really good to then through ball it to Brighton Mbeumo. Then, of course, we've got Brighton Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha. There is no doubt that these two are an upgrade on what we had last season. We've mentioned it a lot, but I think the Brighton match was really where that became very obvious. Partly the Liverpool game as well, to be fair. But in this match, United getting into good positions and just being absolute killers. We spoke in the match video about United having a spare player on the far side of midfield. And when that spare player is Cunha, is Brighton Mbeumo, two of the best forwards anywhere on the planet, that's going to make Manchester United better. I think Ruben Amorim has hinted at this as well. We've got better players more suited to the style of football that he wants to play. And that naturally is going to help the team evolve. It's going to help the team get better. I think it also drastically helps the confidence as well, because these guys are more likely to take a chance when it comes to them or score a goal out of nothing. And I think we've seen recently, the second your team can start scoring goals, the whole team just lifts, right? There's confidence amongst the whole team, and people are a bit freer, they're a bit more aggressive, they're a bit more confident in perhaps following the manager's instructions. So that's where this front three is so good and can help Manchester United evolve even further. They've already done a good job, there's still a lot of work to do, but I think they can really help the mentality of the team. When these guys set such high standards for themselves, but also the teammates around them, when they do have that ruthless finishing ability, it's just fantastic. And the fact that these three had 4 goal contributions at the weekend is magnificent. In terms of the recruitment team, that is exactly what they would have wanted to have seen from the 3 forwards that they signed against United's bogey team at Old Trafford. All 3 of them playing well, having a big impact, and ultimately winning United a football match. So yes, those are sort of the key ways in which Manchester United are evolving right now. The team is getting better. We are seeing more logical reasoning behind things that we've been doing for a long time. With the centre-back going into midfield, we're finally starting to see the benefit of doing that. We're seeing more rotations, which I think is hugely important. If you look at the best teams in the league, probably Arsenal, right? They rotate their team so much. Not in terms of personnel, but in terms of whereabouts they play on the football pitch. The left back will be in a traditional left back position, then he'll be in midfield, then he'll be in the 10, then he'll be out wide. And that's so difficult for the opposition to pick up and follow. And it's not something that we've really seen from Ruben Amorim's side. Like I said, apart from the wing back and inside forward occasionally swapping, it's not been a big part of how United have played recently. So to see that against Brighton was really good. And I think what's really important for the players is that we applied those sort of more difficult ideas, those evolved ways of playing, and delivered. You know, we went with Ruben Amorim's approach to what he wanted and delivered. And that's how you get confidence in a system. That's how fans get confidence as well. I said this the other week. If Ruben Amorim really wants backing from his players and also the fans, win football matches. And Manchester United are doing that right now. And they're doing that, particularly in this match against Brighton, with Ruben Amorim's ideas always there. And of course, as we finished on earlier, the front 3 help. The quality is just absolutely ridiculous. United did a very good job with the recruitment in the front 3. There's still an argument. We didn't need all 3 of them. Perhaps we could have prioritised a central midfielder or a left wing back, for example. But now we have got them. There is no doubt in my mind that all 3 of them will have very successful careers at Manchester United, will score a ridiculous amount of goals and hopefully win a lot of trophies. The Manchester United team is far from perfect, but finally, I would say, for maybe the first time under Ruben Amorim, there is an obvious sign of progress, and importantly, there is also momentum to build on. Now, I believe that is just about everything that I wanted to cover in today's video, so I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, and also get the notifications on so you never miss a future video. But apart from that, we are done, so thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.